Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to bypass all the daily noise and investigate what is probably the defining economic mystery of our time, the intense, almost suffocating pressure on the American dream. For generations, the American middle class was the absolute envy of the world. It was built on this solid belief that every single generation would undeniably live better than the last. We're talking the white picket fence, the fully funded savings account, the whole shebang. But today? Well, today, that reality feels vastly different for a lot of people. Right off the bat, we've got to ask a question that would honestly shock previous generations. Why are six-figure earners struggling? It's a massive modern paradox. We're seeing millions of families earning these historically great six-figure salaries, and yet they're fighting tooth and nail just to stay afloat. Because of this heavy financial pressure, young adults are delaying major life milestones. They're putting off marriage, they're delaying home ownership, and they're even waiting way longer to have kids. So how exactly did we get to a point where traditional success metrics just don't guarantee traditional stability anymore? Section 1. The American Dream. Okay, so to really perform an autopsy on what's happening in our economy today, we first need to establish a baseline. We need to look back at the post-World War II golden age. During that massive economic expansion, factories were booming, suburbs were sprawling, and manufacturing offered wages that actually allowed households to thrive on just a single primary income. Homeownership was the absolute standard. And most importantly, wages grew right alongside productivity. But if we look at the modern era, that equation has completely flipped. Today, dual incomes are essentially required just to get by. Milestones are heavily delayed, and there's this pervasive financial pressure on the workforce. So, what exactly happened between that mid-century boom and today? Section 2. The global shift. Well, the first major disruptor to that mid-century golden era was a fundamental shift in how and where we actually work. This economic pressure we're feeling isn't just some sudden glitch in the matrix. It's been a continuous evolution. Starting in the late 20th century, the economy became incredibly globalized. Companies started moving parts of their manufacturing overseas to chase lower labor costs. Then, as we moved into the early 2000s, we hit the software automation phase. Suddenly, machines and software were doing routine tasks that used to require entire floors of workers. And now, in the 2020s, we are full steam ahead into the AI revolution. But here's the really important thing to understand. The economy wasn't shrinking. It was just changing. Millions of American families were thrust into this sudden state of adaptation. Routine jobs became way less secure, and factories in a lot of communities closed down entirely. But at the exact same time, highly skilled workers were seeing incredible new opportunities opening up in entirely new industries. It was a massive, fundamental reshaping of the labor landscape. Section 3. The cost of living exploded. Now, the second suspect in our economic mystery is the sheer cost of existence. Because honestly, the biggest challenge for families wasn't just stagnant or shifting incomes, it was absolutely exploding expenses. Expenses have vastly outpaced wages. We're looking at skyrocketing housing prices and rent, especially in major cities. Healthcare costs have gone through the roof. College tuition is completely unrecognizable compared to a few decades ago, turning into this massive lifelong burden. And childcare? Actually, for a lot of families today, paying for daycare rivals a luxury car payment. If you want to know exactly why households with really respectable salaries still feel like they're falling behind, well, these pain points are your answer. When you stack wage growth up against the rising cost of basic necessities, the mismatch is just staggering. Wages are completely dwarfed by these skyrocketing costs. This is the very definition of the middle-class squeeze. Now, the result of this imbalance isn't necessarily immediate poverty for these higher earners. Rather, it's a relentless, suffocating financial pressure. It's the reason why taking a traditional step, like buying a first home, is mathematically so much harder today than it was for previous generations, even if you do everything quote-unquote right. Section 4. A two-speed economy. So, as those living costs climbed, the job market didn't just change, it basically fractured. It split into two distinct tracks based almost entirely on specialized knowledge. On one side, we have the high-speed economy. This track heavily rewards advanced education and technology-driven skills. We're talking software, engineering, medicine, finance, and of course, AI. These careers offer exceptionally high incomes that can actually keep pace with those rising living costs. But on the other side, we have the moderate speed economy, which is made up of routine occupations experiencing much slower wage growth. And this dynamic, it has rapidly widened the gap between higher income and middle income households. This fracture highlights a really vital distinction that we have to talk about. Income versus wealth. Income is simply what you earn from working. Wealth, on the other hand, is what you own and invest in, things like stocks, businesses, and real estate. When people are living paycheck to paycheck because of the insanely high cost of living, they completely miss out on asset appreciation. They can't buy the house, they can't invest in the market, which means they miss out on the very mechanisms that build long-term financial security. The gap between those who just earn and those who actually own is becoming incredibly stark, and it carries a really heavy emotional weight for families who are just trying to build a future.
Section 5. The AI Revolution.
So, we've talked about globalization and software, but now we're facing the most immediate disruptor of our decade. It starts when AI automates routine tasks in literal seconds. Businesses, naturally, are going to adopt this to slash overhead and improve efficiency. As a result, familiar roles are going to dramatically change, or maybe vanish entirely, which understandably creates immense anxiety about job displacement. But then comes the pivot. Entirely new industries and careers emerge from the ashes. History has taught us time and time again that while technology replaces certain roles, it always creates others. The hurdle is simply whether workers can gain the skills for those new opportunities fast enough. Section 6. The future of success. Look, with globalization, incredible inflation, and AI completely reshaping the landscape, how exactly do we adapt? Are we just out of luck? Well, economists analyzing the data are quick to point out that opportunities still exist for many who can adapt to changing conditions. They strongly caution against declaring the American dream dead. Millions of Americans are still finding incredible opportunities through entrepreneurship, building businesses, and navigating entirely new industries. The dream hasn't died, guys. It just requires a totally different map than it used to. Families today are actively rewriting the rules of the middle class. They are taking that strict 1950s checklist and throwing it out the window in favor of extreme flexibility. We're seeing a massive shift toward remote work, which allows people to completely avoid those expensive, impossible housing markets. People are launching digital businesses. They're leveraging online education to upskill faster and way cheaper than a traditional 4-year college. And they're embracing entirely new forms of freelance and contract employment. Basically, they are modernizing career building in real time.
All of this leaves us with one final, absolutely vital question. Is the American dream actually disappearing, or is it just changing? The evidence strongly suggests it's the latter. The path is undeniably harder, and for sure, the cost of entry is steeper, but adaptability has become the ultimate currency. Whether this new dream becomes easier or harder to achieve for the next generation remains one of the defining economic questions of our time. It is a fascinating shift, and I really hope this explainer gave you the structured clarity you need to understand the forces shaping all of our futures. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and as always, keep questioning the world around you.